Hi, welcome to another Gut tutorial. My name's Butch. I am the creator of Gut, and today we're going to take a look at using the new InputSender object added in Gut 730 and how we can use it to easily send input events to objects. We're going to do this by adding double jump to the Godot 2D platformer demo project. There are 4 sections in this video. There are links to each section in the description. In the first section, we'll be setting up some resources and test scripts to make it easier to test the player object. The second section is a brief description of the input sender object and how we'll set it up to send input events to the player. After that, we'll start implementing the double jump feature. And lastly, we'll do a little bit of refactoring and clean up the code. In order to speed things along, I've done a little bit of setup off camera. I've downloaded the Godot 2D platformer project, which is sitting in front of us right now. I went ahead and installed Gut, and then I created a couple of directories to store our tests. I created a test directory at the root of the project, an integration, resources, and unit folder underneath that. And then I went ahead and configured the Gut panel to see the unit and integration directories. In order to test the player and its jumping ability as an integration test, we're going to need a level that has some ground and a player, and then that'll be the environment we use to test how the character handles input. And that starts right now. We are going to call this test flat level. And let's go ahead and save this into our resources. Okay, this is going to need a tile map, sorry. And that's going to need a tile set. And no, not new. We want to load it. There it is. And the tiles for this are into art, tile set. We also need to change the cell size to 32. All right, I didn't want to do that. Okay. Let's go ahead and draw a flat surface for our guy to walk on. Oh, if you want to get rid of these things, right click them. And there we go. Then let's also add in a player. Grab the player, put him middle of the screen. We're going to be doing some jumping. So I'm going to get this guy close to the ground. And then over here, I'm also going to grab some of these pretty little trees. We'll put some of these guys out there. So as we're jumping, we can see what we've done. See how far up we've gone. And that. Yep. There we go. All right. So this is the scene that we will be using in all of our integration tests. We're going to load this scene up, and then we're going to feed input to the player and then make assertions based off how he's responded to those inputs. The next step is we need to create some integration tests. So we're going to go ahead and create a new script called test player movement. Let's go ahead and open that up. This will also extend gut test. We're going to need a reference to that level we just created. So let's get that. I've already done some poking around, figuring out how this would work. And one thing we need to do is we need to make sure that the player is registered as being on the floor. And then I think, can just write tests from there. But since we're testing jumps and stuff like that, if the character's not on the floor, it's not going to jump. So we've got to get everything set up. We're going to need a level, and we're going to need a player. And then we're going to set those up in the before each. And we're going to set the level equal to, we're going to want to add this as a child. And we're going to use the Gut add child auto free instance. And then the player's in there. We can just do level.get node player. We're going to make a verify setup test for now. And we're going to assert that player is not null. And then we're going to come down here. What's your problem? Oh, there we go. Let's run that. Oops, nope. Okay, new scripts. The panel doesn't recognize when you've made a new script. So we found a bug. All right, so player is not null. And on floor failed. And the way we get around this is we add in a little yield here. And we're going to yield frames. This was added not too long ago in Gut. This allows you to yield for a certain number of frames instead of to time. So we're going to yield for 1 frame. And let's run this again. Everything passed. Okay, we are now all set up to go ahead and start making features and making integration tests. Now it's time to introduce the InputSender object introduced in Gut 730. So let's go ahead and make one of those. We're going to call it sender.new. This object will allow you to easily create input events and have them automatically sent to various different receivers. You can have as many receivers as you want. Those receivers will have their various input events called on them, such as underbar input or underbar GUI input. You can even use the input global as a receiver for these input events that are created. And if we look, that's what we're going to have to do for the player here, since all of the input that's being processed by the player is being done through the input global. So let's go ahead and add input here as our receiver. We have to take a few extra steps though when we're using the input global as a receiver, because say we press a button in one test, we send the button down or action down event that goes into the input object. The input object now thinks that that button is down, and input won't forget that that button is down across tests. And if your next test pushes the button again, then the input object won't register a press when a button has already been pressed. So we have to make sure that that state gets cleared, that the state of the input global gets cleared, and that any state that the input sender object that we have gets cleared after each test. And there are 2 functions on the input sender that allow you to do this. So we're going to make an after each, and we are going to call sender.release all, and this will release all pressed events. So anything that's been pressed through the sender will get released, and so that state won't travel from one test to another. And we're also going to do a sender.clear, and this will just clear out any state that the sender itself has. Let's see if we can make the thing jump, and then figure out how to assert that the character's jumping. So let's make test jump jumps. We're going to do a sender.action down jump. We're going to hold for 1 second. to sender idle. And I don't really know yet how to check whether or not we're jumping. So let's just see if this works. So that looked like a jump, but we couldn't see it. So let's go ahead and turn compact mode on, which came out in 7.3.0. Okay. That looks like a jump. All right, so we jumped, but we're not asserting anything. So how do we figure out if the player is moving, if they've jumped? Well, you can see that the player extends actor, and if we go into actor, we can see here's a velocity. And, well, okay, so in physics process here, this is applying gravity to y, so chances are if we're jumping, our velocity is going to be changed in the y direction, since that's the opposite of falling to gravity. But this is an underbar velocity. We're not really supposed to access that because the underbar indicates that it's private. So let's go ahead and, nope, not that. Let's go ahead and add a get velocity. And we're going to return velocity. And now this would actually be a great place for a unit test to make sure that get velocity is actually returning the velocity and that it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do. I think we can all agree that it does work, although it does. I don't like the idea of not having a test for get velocity. So let's go ahead and assert greater than player dot get velocity dot y 0. Okay, let's run that. And that passed. Okay, I just realized we've got a problem here. And this is the problem with creating tests that against existing code. You want to watch a test fail first. And we didn't really have a chance to do that here. We actually went less than. Because what's happening is, if we look, gravity's in the positive and jumping should actually be in the negative. And if we run this again, we got a failure. We're actually moving at 15. And the reason is we're holding this thing for a second. So after 1 second, we've had enough time to start decelerating. So let's hold for 0.1. Let's see if that works. Okay, that worked. Let's see if we can double jump, which we currently cannot. So let's write our test. Test can double jump. And so we're going to do a sender.action down jump. And we are going to hold for 0.1. So this means we're going to hold down the jump button for 0.1 seconds. And then we're going to wait. This hold for will push the button down and then release it 0.1 seconds later. And then we're going to do nothing for 0.1 seconds. And we're going to do an action down jump. So we're now pressing action down. We're actually jumping again. We're going to hold this for another 0.1. That's all we're going to do. This needs a slash. We're going to do that. Then we're going to yield until the sender is idle, which means that it has pushed the button, waited, pushed the button, and then released the button. And that'll be idle, and we are going to assert less than player.get velocity dot y 0. Alright, let's run this test. And it failed. We did not jump again. That's great. Okay, now we have to figure out how to make this thing double jump. I found this get direction method. I basically was just looking for jump. Here we can see something's happening. It's a little confusing to look at. We've got a vector 2 here on the outside. This is the X. This is the Y. And there's an if statement just mashed into the middle of it, which confuses the daylights out of me. But it works. It looks like it's saying, hey, if we're on the floor and we just hit jump, then we're gonna start heading in the -1 direction. Otherwise, we don't go anywhere. So I think if we just delete this and run our test again, it passes. All right, we added double jump. Now we're done, right? Well, maybe not. Let's go ahead and open up our test flat level. And you guys might know what I'm about to do. Oh yeah, we don't have double jump. We have infinite jump. We can just jump as much as we want. We now got to make sure that we cannot triple jump. So we're going to start here. And we're going to wait another 0.1. And then we're going to hit it again. And stop. And then we're going to yield. Sender idle. And this time we actually want a greater than. So this should fail. Doesn't start with test. There we go. Okay. Yep. We shouldn't still be heading up into the sky after jumping 3 times. So now we got to figure out how to not jump 3 times. We could have a jump counter. And then we'll probably split this out. That sounds easy enough, right? Let's make a var jump counter equals 0. Let's go ahead and make this. Okay. And then we're going to return dir x, dir y. And we're going to say then dir y equals -1. All right, so this gets us back to where we were. And jump counter plus equals 1. And so we also then want to say and jump counter less than 2. All right, we did it. Maybe you've spotted the problem here. All right, we can now double jump, and then we can't jump again. That's because we're not resetting that jump counter. All right, we now have to test can jump after landing. Landing from double jump. Because we need to double jump to expend the counter. So let's go ahead and get a double jump in here. And at the end of this, we're going to wait 1. Let's just wait 2. That should be enough. And then we're just going to jump again. So it's yield sender idle. And then we're going to jump again. Yield again. And then make sure we're jumping. Let's see, this should fail. 1, 2, tries to jump. Okay. Cool. All right, so now we got to go into the player. We've got our jump counter. We got to figure out. So I think what we can do, we can just say if is on floor, jump counter equals 0. So as soon as we touch the floor, we get all our jumps back. Run it again. Yay! All right. Okay, you might be thinking, hey, we're done now. Well, let me show you this. Look at this. All right, so we can double jump up here. That's great. Got to a new spot, but watch what happens when I walk off this platform. I'm going to walk off this platform, and I'm going to jump twice. And that's my cat. He's saying stuff. I know, Barney. Trying to work. Ugh. He says meow. Okay, where was I? Yeah. This is when I realized double jump's a lie, because double jump is not really double jump, is it? Double jump is actually ground jump plus air jump. Everybody knows that. You don't get to jump twice in the air just because you didn't jump off the ground. So we got to start counting our air jumps and our ground jumps differently so that we can do real double jump, which is actually just ground jump plus air jump. All right, so let's go ahead and write our test for jumping on a fall. Test cannot double jump on a fall. So we're going to grab the player and we're going to set his position up in the air. About 100. And then we're going to yield. Yeah, we got to yield for just a little bit so that the falling logic kicks in on the player. Otherwise, if we don't yield, is on the floor is still going to be true, even though we're way up in the air, because that will have not had a chance to kick in. So I'm going to yield frames. Let's just go 2. And then we're going to double jump. So we can come up here and grab this. There we go. And then we are going to assert greater than player.get velocity dot y0. Come on. There we go. So this should fail. Oh. We did not yield to the sender. All right, that failed because we did jump twice. I think what we want here is we want to check. We're going to jump if we are on floor or our jump counter's less than 1. We're going to go down from that. See if that fixes it. That fixes that. All right, did we break anything? We did. What did we break? We broke double jump. Okay. And we did that because we're always increasing the jump counter. So not is on floor. So now we're only jumping when we're only counting the jumps when we're in the air. So that should have fixed everything. All right, cool. There we go. We got double jump now. Okay, so technically we're done. But there's a couple things that kind of bother me. For one, this is not jump counter anymore. This should be like air jump counter. The other thing I don't like is I don't like this one, just this magic number 1 sitting right here. What this really should be, this should be max air jumps. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. And if we run everything again, everything works. Okay. So now we've got this thing. I think we want to be able to set this. So let's go over to test player. We haven't been in here for a while, and let's go ahead and let's make sure we can set this value. Let's run this. Of course, it fails. We don't have our accessors, and we can see this is looking for a getter, and this is looking for a setter. And we're going to make function max air jumps. All right. And now we should write one more test to make sure function test can quad jump when max air jumps set to 4. Let's see what we got. There we go. Sweet. Now we can give our guy as many jumps as we want, which is a lot of fun. Okay, so one thing you're not seeing, rather hearing, is that the jump noise is played up here in physics process whenever you're on the floor and you've jumped. So it's only happening when you're on the floor because our other jumps are down here. So what we really need is we need a jump function. So I'm going to go ahead and make that. We're just going to call it jump. And this is going to jump if you can. And it will return, this is going to return your Y direction. Kind of the same way that this is working. And this isn't going to care if the button's pressed because this is the jump action. But it is going to care whether or not you can jump. So we're going to grab this. Okay, so now we have a function that allows us to jump whenever we want. And we're going to rename this to get X direction. And we are just going to return this and kill that. And then we're going to say direction equals vector 2 get direction comma 0. And then we're going to say if we're hitting jump, then direction dot y equals jump. Oh, this is get x direction now. And we can get rid of this. And now we can also we'll put that there. So now we should be making jump noises on all of our jumps. Let's make sure we didn't break anything. All right. And you can't hear it, but I can hear it. And it is working.